Hello and welcome to Netflix vs. Cinema, the podcast that goes to the cinema every week, sees a couple of things, rates them out of 5, stays at home, sees a couple of things, rates them out of 5, puts them up against each other and sees where money has been better spent this week. Was it worth it getting off our butts and going to a local cinema to see something? My name is Tosin and I am the host. I am based up in the middle of the UK, somewhere near Birmingham, a place called Bromsgrove. And joining me as always on the Isle of Wight is Shaun Harris.
Hello.
And Sharon Bolin.
Hello.
And also joining us, and a special, if you've been listening to us for a while, you might have heard talk of this elusive, mythical character called Happy John. Joining us with Shaun. Shaun has dragged him, and we have Happy John. Hey, how you doing, Happy John?
Yeah, fine. The man of the understatement.
Yes, the man himself. Right, cool. It's so great to actually have you join us today and see whatever nonsense we're going to talk about. But let's kick off first with talking about what it is we have seen in cinema. I will do my usual run through in age order. Shaun?
I'm afraid I've not seen much at the cinema this way, but we'll probably talk about why later.
We will talk about why later. Sharon?
I have a complete nada on the cinema line, I'm afraid.
Okay, John, you seen anything in the cinema?
No, last thing was I know what he did last summer, but I think you guys already covered that.
We covered that last week.
And
we
it's
covered
terrible.
That.
So yeah.
I'm glad he agrees with me.
Yeah, Shaun actually did. Shaun did report your views on that because he said he went to see that with you, and because Shaun was never a fan of the originals, and you said that you were a fan of the originals, we were interested to see what you thought, and he said that you thought it was rubbish. So
yeah, I actually did warn him, but he didn't listen.
Oh no! I told you honestly, if you listen to our show from last week, it's like you just keep hearing us saying taking one for the team, because I could tell that Shaun was going to hate that from the poster. I could tell that, but I still wanted to hear him rant about it. I really, really did. So thanks for that. Okay, so I have seen in the cinema. I caught a preview screening of the film Materialists, directed by Celine Song with Dakota Johnson, Chris Evans, and Pedro Pascal. And I also saw The Naked Gun. The Naked Gun, the new version with Liam Neeson. All right, what about at home? What have we seen at home? Because I'm going to keep my things that I've seen at home out of the way because you guys can handle home. I'll handle cinema this week. So, what have we seen?
Okay, well, I've watched the new War of the Worlds. I just watched that last night, and I didn't hear any reviews or anything, so I just thought, that'd be interesting. Well, we'll see. Anyway, so I'm going to do War of the Worlds. I've seen quite a lot of other stuff as well. I rewatched Master and Commander.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, just on YouTube, and it come up, and I started watching it, and I just thought I better finish watching it because it's such a good movie. And then from there, I went on YouTube, is how accurate is Master and Commander, and then
you ended up in a rabbit hole, didn't you?
Yeah, ended up in a rabbit hole.
All right, cool. And Sharon?
I have, I would say finally, because it did take me a while, I have finished season 6 of Virgin River. Now, I wasn't going to review this, but you convinced me that yes, there's things to talk about here. So that's what I bring to the table.
it is one of those shows that I find myself baffled about because I'm like, whoa, 6? Season 6? So okay, cool. So we will get around to that. But first of all, let us kick off with the big noise this week, and that is The Naked Gun. So, The Naked Gun, this is some might think it's a reboot, but it's actually more like a sequel. It's more like a sequel to the original, sort of like, I think the original was 80s, the second one I think was 90s. Leslie Nielsen.
89 and 91.
Yeah.
I think it was like every 2 years.
Yeah, it was something like that. I think the second one was, and then the Naked Gun 33 and the third was definitely in the middle of the 90s. I definitely remember that when that came out. And these were spoof, silly kind of like things. They came from a TV show called Police Squad, which only had 6 episodes. But it was extremely silly comedy. Extremely out there, sight gags galore, dumb talk. It's like, if you think, it was made by the same people who made Airplane. So if you think about Airplane and you think about all the wordplay that happens in Airplane, Naked Gun was like almost going back to that world to go to that. And these films, for me, they're beloved. Because the first one I ever saw was Naked Gun 2.5. I saw that film and I remember watching this and going, oh my God, this is what comedy should be. Every film that's supposed to make you laugh should be made like this. And I know that Shaun, you had a totally different approach or reaction when you saw the original Naked Guns.
I did, yeah. I find it really, really difficult. I know probably call me a grumpy old man, or I would have been a grumpy, getting middle-aged man then, I suppose, when they were out. But
yeah,
I mean, I just find them too ridiculous for words. You know what I mean? Slapsticky. It's just, you know me and how sort of, how funny I am with that. I just cannot do these. I just find them so absolutely ludicrous. That, I mean, slapstick stuff, maybe, I don't know. It just doesn't work for me.
Yeah, the thing is, I can totally understand why this would not be everybody's cup of tea, because it is like they've turned the silly up to the max. They've turned the silly and the absurdity and everything like that up to the max, and you're either with it or you're not with it. For instance, I was totally with this. This was my bag. When I saw 2.5, which still has a special place in my heart. I know people say the first Naked Gun is the best, but for me, 2.5 is just like mwah. It has just some great silly things. When I saw that film, I felt understood. I felt like somebody actually understood me. How about you, Happy John? What do you think when you first saw it?
I loved them. I can't remember if I saw Airplane before I saw the Naked Gun films. I don't think I did.
Yeah, I didn't say Airplane before I saw Naked Gun. I saw Naked Gun first, yeah.
Yeah. I do remember the trailer for the first one was one of the first things I saw on the big screen, actually.
Yeah.
No, I loved them. I do love the humour. I don't like most spoof movies because they've just been badly made over the years.
They have been,
the original three
and Hot Shots. Yeah.
Oh yeah, those two as well.
Hot Shots Part 2.
Hot Shots and Hot Shots, but I think at the height of spoof comedy is the Naked Gun movies and Hot Shots Part 2. That is the height. Then there's a whole bunch of different things that came along that didn't quite, that kind of ruined the idea of the spoof movie. Essentially, any movie that ended up with something movie, like scary movie, superhero movie.
It was that, and it started on from there.
It just started. Yeah, it was just rubbish.
Yeah.
but anyway, I've done this. We've been talking for about. I've almost run out of my 5 minutes to talk about this film, and I haven't actually spoken about this film. So this film has Liam Neeson in it, and you bring Liam Neeson in, and the reason why this is like a sequel is because he's not just playing Frank Drebin. He's playing Frank Drebin Jr. So he's playing the son of the Leslie Nielsen character from the first 3 movies. And the original one was making fun of all these sort of like, I think almost 1960s TV shows, like, like your what's that one, Peter Gunn and stuff like that. There was one that had Burt Reynolds in it, Dan August. It was making fun of those sort of things, everything, even down to like the freeze frame at the end and everything, and this tries to update it a bit and sort of like add in some little other cop cliches that have come in from the while. If you are a fan of the original Naked Gun, there will be stuff here that you will like. I will go out and I would say, obviously, coming for trying to make something like this that has the same name as a very, very beloved film is a dangerous thing to do, because you are going to be compared. And it is not as good or as funny, but there are sections in it where this totally works. It was quite a packed cinema I've seen it in, because the cinemas are getting increasingly more and more packed as the weeks go on. I think our cinema is on its way back. And it is the cinema screen I have been in where I've heard the most laughter. Where there were probably about 100 people in there, and people were just laughing their heads off throughout this whole thing. Like different things that happened. Some stuff that I feel maybe there were some callbacks to the other ones. There's some jokes that they repeat from the other Naked Gun movies. And I feel like this is best at when it goes and does its own thing. When it does its own thing, when it does stuff that maybe they didn't have the technology to do. There's one particular joke that I cracked up about. It's kind of like, and it has to do with when you have like, when nowadays. Sorry, John, now that is like the Oscar music that plays and when it tells us that we've been talking for too long and we need to wrap this review up. So you know how it is when they started doing this whole thing in films where you have 48 minutes later on screen, but it's like in a 3D block and everything like that. And they have one particular joke that has to do with the 48 minutes later. And because I think you're going to watch it, John, I am not going to spoil the joke. But that actually, it was unexpected and it cracked me up. I think Liam Neeson, I feel like if you get into the wavelength of what Liam Neeson is doing, you could enjoy the film. And I'm not entirely sure I got onto the wavelength throughout the whole film. I kept thinking, ooh, Leslie Nielsen would have said it that way. Leslie Nielsen would have done it that way. And Leslie Nielsen, because he was just a master of delivering this deadpan dialogue where it looks like he's being serious. He's not winking at the camera, but you're kind of like, and William Neeson does well as not winking at the camera, but sometimes I think he might be a little bit too gruff. But I think Pamela Anderson does her role well. Danny Houston, everybody just plays their role well, and they play on all these sort of the CCH Pounder plays the police chief, and there's a running gag about her husband that I think is actually quite funny. So it's all in all, I really enjoy this. I would give it a 3. I'll give it a 3 out of 5 because I feel like it didn't entirely work, but I feel like if they get a chance to make a sequel, I think they might end up being a little bit more courageous and just doing their own thing without doing any callbacks to the original ones, because there were some jokes that I felt were a callback to the original one. Like, I think it's even a joke in Airplane where somebody's having a fight and then all of a sudden it's like, take a ticket as the next henchman comes along and there's like a number. They do that joke and I'm like, I've seen that joke before. So all in all, I thought I was going to give it a 3.
Okay, out of interest, Sharon, what do you reckon on these films?
Well, harking back, I do actually remember Police Squad well better than the actual Naked Gun films. Because at one time it used to be on BBC Two. When I would come home from school, we'd watch it. And I thought those were very funny, but they were quite short. I think they were only sort of 25 minutes, 30 minutes long. And so I think it's very, very funny when it's compact. When you stretch it over a couple of hours, for me, the joke wears a bit thin. So I enjoy it in a short burst, that sort of silliness and that. Yeah, but I think it's a bit tighter when it's shorter. So for me, it worked better as a short rather than as a feature. So I probably won't be in a hurry to go and see it.
Although I will say, 84 minutes this film.
Oh, so
you're fairly short.
Yeah. So 84 minutes. So they understand they need to get in and get out. But even at that length, I do think that the problem you're pointing, Sharon, it would still be effective. It would still be in effect. I think what you're talking about there. All right, cool. So that's 3 stars with Naked Gun. I'm happy it's back. I think it worked way better than it had any right to. This could have been a disaster, and I think it is not a disaster. It's not an unqualified success, but it's not a disaster.
But I'm all for this sort of renaissance of Pamela Anderson. I'm all for that. I just
100%.
This sort of, it's not a reinvention because I think you're seeing probably more of the true Pamela Anderson than we've seen before. But I just really like the way that she's sort of coming into her own again. I just sort of more power to her.
I like the fact that she is getting opportunities. She's getting opportunities, and even because in this she plays like the film noir femme fatale. It's like a spoof of the film noir femme fatale. So it's kind of like I love what it's almost like she's making fun of her image, but she's doing it on her own terms, and I think a lot of the times beforehand it was people making fun of her. And so yeah, I agree with you. I'm all for that. Right, let's go on to War of the Worlds. This is on
War
Prime.
War of the Worlds, eh?
This is on Prime
War
Video.
of the Worlds.
Sean, I'm telling you, right? I saw the poster for this. I saw the thumbnail for this, War of the Worlds, and all I saw was Ice Cube's face. And when I saw
about 300 years old, wasn't he?
I know. But the thing that got me about it, so War of the Worlds with Ice Cube, and this sounded to all the world like some cheap knockoff that somebody had made in the like the early noughties after Steven Spielberg made his War of the Worlds, and they're like, what would be funny? Let's do a cheap knockoff of. But I was like, but if that's the case, Ice Cube wouldn't. Why would they have made Ice Cube look older than he was? But I was just convinced that this film was not a current film. That this film had been made, and then like how Prime Video has all these relics that they have from all these decades past that you never heard of.
It might have been.
I thought that's what this film was, but apparently no.
It might have been a pandemic one. Might have been a pandemic one. You never know.
Yes and no. I know a bit of history about this.
Okay.
I can't pronounce the producer's name, but he's the one who did that Night Watch film years ago.
Oh, Ilya.
He produced Searching and Missing, those films.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
He's going over the whole same idea of, see everything made on a cheap through laptop. And from judging from the trailer, it doesn't work with tripods.
Okay. All right, cool. And okay, so that's what you've seen on the trailer from the film, John. Shaun, what did you actually think from watching the film?
For me, okay, so yeah, I watched this quite recently. What can I say? It's just basically this. It all takes place. It's all done online, and you've got Ice Cube. He's like a member of the what they call them, the NRA or something like that, or
NSA,
NCI, or one of those acronyms.
Yeah.
He's sort of surveilling everything that's going on, but he's also, and they're trying to catch this. They're trying to catch this this like hacker thing that keeps coming on and saying, oh, you've got this, all conspiracy stuff and all that, and that's how it starts off. That's how the movie starts off. They're trying to catch him, and the person's not there. And suffice to say, the person is somebody that's quite relevant to the story. Anyway, he spies on his daughter. He spies on his son. So he's got like, oh, what are you doing? Where are you? You're going to get blah, 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 blah. You've got all these little subplots, and it's all done online. They're going, Dad, are you there? Are you there? And these things come, and they're the tripods, if you like, or whatever they start summing.
Tripods.
Yeah, well, whatever they are, they're not. They're obviously a nice lot of CGI, but what they're after is, they're not after like harvesting the organs or taking the blood or whatever. These need data. They feed on data. So all this stuff.
All right. Okay. Cool.
So they have to be, and there's all these secret places all around the world which are like big hives of data.
Yes.
So it's quite a lot about surveillance and that. And Ice Cube he's obviously talking. He has all these conferences all over the place, and people pop in his daughter, and then he goes, "Oh, I better tell my daughter, find out where she is. I better find my son, find out where she is." And then the old, head bloke calls and says, "Oh, come on, what you doing? What you doing?"
Yeah.
And the hacker comes in, and he goes, "Oh, it's you." I won't tell you who it is, but anyway, because that might be
okay, but
it's want to see it.
It sounds, but the way you're talking about it, it sounds like the kind of thing that it will be very, very obvious once you start watching the film who the person will be.
yeah, for sure. I mean, it's basically, I'm assuming it would be done fair. This must have been done fairly cheaply, because the aliens are such a, well,
yeah, because from what I hear, you only ever see them on screens in the background. It's kind of like an adaptation of War of the Worlds, where the alien invasion happens in the background.
Yeah,
to everything, to a family drama. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, John, you look like your head's hurting at the thought of it.
Yeah, you got this family drama. Sorry, Sharon.
I was thinking it's Shades of Cloverfield. The one where they're all underground and they have all these different things going on there, and then you get glimpses of what's going on outside. Because I haven't seen it.
Yeah, no. Well, it's
not really. Obviously.
Sort of. Basically, his daughter's boyfriend is like he's one of those sort of ones who you think's a bit simple, but in the end turns out to be, good.
To have some virtue. That is to have some virtue that is relevant to the plot.
You're always good with that, yeah. So what we have here then, to sum it up in a nutshell, is something that's not very good. The acting is pretty awful. I did end up watching the whole thing just to see where it was going to go, and it was like, little cyber bots and bad CGI and lots of screen time and trying to hack in, and then all the stuff goes down, and then they have to try and get it back up, all the passwordy stuff, you know what I mean? Beep beep beep. Bit like all those little tropes that when it comes to the IT side of things. So yeah, I told you it was all surveillance. This bloke said, "I told you."
Well, it is. But it sounds like it had some good ideas, like to update it. Like, for instance, the idea about the aliens being after data. That I think that I find that intriguing on the surface of it. And obviously it's about what they do with it and how they go about doing it and everything like that. This film has been getting a kicking. It has been going viral for all the wrong reasons. I don't think this is how Ice Cube planned to come back to relevance, but knowing him, he's going to make it work.
Well, yeah, but that's it really. And who probably from, like you said, Toes, people,
who everybody is from the second you see them.
Bad. There's always a bad blokey, isn't there? There's always a bad blokey at the sort of top of the chain, and there's always a good one that. And someone who's like very,
I think with this, I always remember Equalizer 2, the Denzel Washington, the film Equalizer 2, and how you knew exactly how that film was going to play out from the second you were introduced to you're like, well, he's dead. you're like, okay, yeah, she's not making it past the first act of the movie. That's the bad guy. And they're spending so long going, who could this person be? That's the bad guy. Ooh, but could he be good? That's the bad guy. And you just, Yeah, and to go back to Naked Gun, that's one thing that Naked Gun thankfully doesn't try and do. It just tells you who it is from the word go.
Yeah.
But okay, how many stars would you give War of the Worlds?
2 stars.
1.
2 stars.
1.
You haven't seen it yet, John.
John, you haven't seen it.
2. It's a 1.
You haven't seen it. You haven't seen it, and we have to go where the whole thing is that you have to have seen it to actually have an opinion. So, actually, to have an opinion, to have a rating, you can have an opinion. Because I have done that many a time on this podcast.
Based on the trailer, it's a 1. I've seen the trailer.
All right, cool. And yeah, all opinions are respected here. But you're not going to.
For me, it's 2 stars. So give it 2 stars.
Yes, because Shaun actually, I'm going to give it because Shaun actually took the bullet and actually watched the thing. Right, and now we're going to go back to cinema, and we're going to talk Materialists. Now, this is a film that I saw it in a preview screening yesterday, and this stars, I said, Dakota Johnson, Chris Evans, and Pedro Pascal. This is directed by Celine, whose last film was Past Lives, which I think Shaun reviewed it before I got to see it, and he said, great film. I saw it and I was like, oh my god, yeah, that's a 5-star masterpiece. So I was looking out for whatever this woman was going to do next. I was like, yeah, I want to see what this woman does next. And what she has done, she has gone for, because Past Lives is almost this sort of like aching thing about lost lives that you could have had, and maybe if you didn't move country and all that kind of stuff. And it ends up being like this really heart-rending, complicated love triangle at the center of that film. This film is essentially, it's a rom-com, but it's a rom-com with a lot on its mind. So it's kind of like, you know how people talk about rom-coms and then sometimes people think, oh, rom-coms, that's like, a terrible film, or it's like it's rom-com equals terrible film. And a bit like what we were talking about spoofs earlier, how you had spoofs and after a while spoofs got like, they got sullied, so to say, by so many bad ones. And I think we had that with rom-coms. But then you have things like When Harry Met Sally and Sleepless in Seattle, or whenever Meg Ryan decides to make a rom-com, which seems to elevate themselves to like a higher level. And I think at this, they're big words, but it is in that upper level of rom-com. Because this is a film that there are at least 3 speeches. There's a very famous speech from When Harry Met Sally in When Harry Met Sally, that when he's talking about all the reasons why I love you, where Billy Crystal's talking to Meg Ryan and saying all the reasons why I love you. And there are three speeches of which I think in this film that are at that level for me of just observation and talking about all these different things. I think is great. So you meet Dakota Johnson. I keep being careful not to call her Dakota Fanning. You meet Dakota Johnson, and she plays a character called Lucy, and she works in this high class matchmaking firm in New York. And her whole idea is like people pay a lot of money and they come in with a lot of demands. Like if you see the trailer for this, the trailer just starts off with client after client making their demands of who they want to meet. Must be 6'2", cannot be shorter than 6'2", must earn $200,000 a year, must work in finance, blah 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 blah, must come from money. And the film is very clever at going about what you have what the men are looking for, what the women are looking for, because a lot of the people who are looking for it's heterosexual couples trying to find somebody else. And like there's this whole bit where there's this guy saying, I want to meet somebody who's a little bit more mature, because I think my last 2 girlfriends, one of them was 21, one of them was 24, and I think that they just couldn't get what I was on about. I want someone who's a bit more mature. And she goes, oh great, we got a lovely person for you, she's 39. He's like, whoa, I said more mature, I didn't say ancient. She's like, okay, cool, we got someone who's 31. It's like, hey, no, 27. I want somebody 27. But you saying you want somebody more mature? Yeah, 27. and it's things like that.
How old is he?
He was 40 something.
Oh, yeah, that.
Yeah, and so yeah, and the thing is, I think this is something, right, that I would love Holly to watch, because I think that it's almost sort of like aimed for Holly. Lives in a big city. What's the dating scene like? For somebody like me who's been out of the dating scene for a while, it's almost like is that what it's like? Oh my God, everybody's just so entitled, and it's about her walking around trying to deal with all these entitled clients. But when she goes to at the beginning, the 9th wedding that has come from her introducing people, she's attending the wedding, and even at the wedding, there's people coming to her going, "You're the one who made this happen. Oh my God, I so need you." And it's like recruitment and all that. And then she meets Pedro Pascal, who is the brother of the groom, and something happens there, but at the same time, Chris Evans is working there. He's a former boyfriend who's like a struggling actor who is working there, working the tables and everything, and she meets him there. And so the film comes up with a typical, once again, setting song, love triangle. Is she going to go for the is she going to go for the person who she shares a lot with but is broke, and she can't stand that because in her mind, her non-negotiables in her partner is rich, and nice to have is filthy rich. Or is she going to go for the rich guy who has a $12 million apartment in Manhattan, and that like money's like nothing to him? And so it comes up with that. As I said, it is a rom-com. It ends in a wedding, but not in a very. And I will try and leave you in suspense as to who the wedding is to, or who the wedding is within. Right. But I thought this was very, very good. I thought that the way it talks about relationships, the way it's very grown up about the reasons why people do certain things, and why, and also about how you might have like, the romantic ideal on your mind, but then there's also the fact of, the bills have to be paid. And how do you take that whole thing? How do you marry a romantic idea where you're thinking about it's all about love to hang on, love might not be enough because you actually have to live in New York. How the heck are you going to do that? And I think that it does that really well. The conversations are brilliant. I think the performances are brilliant. And there are funny bits. Let me just put it, there's funny bits about the lengths that people will go to find a partner that make me really, really glad that Claudia said yes when I asked her to marry me, and that I don't have to deal with this anymore. Honestly, because it does make it look like it's a jungle out there. It's great, and it's a great film. I would give it a 4 out of 5, and I would recommend that when it comes to cinemas, you guys go watch it. And I think Shaun, because you always talk about the final scene of past lives. And you kind of go, because, and for you can see that you're like, that totally makes sense. I can understand that would be a dilemma, that kind of thing will happen. I think that there's many dilemmas that happen throughout this film that you would like.
Oh, right. But I'll make a point of seeing that. I think I see it was released today. I would have probably gone and seen this if before, but I think it's been, or I saw it. I think it's released today at Cineworld. So,
all right, cool. Yeah, go grab it, because as good as I think it is, I'm not sure how long it'll be around.
Do you fancy it, Sharon?
Yeah, I'll consider that one certainly. Only on that recommendation. So my phone is ringing. So can you hear it in the background?
Yeah, we can a little bit, but don't worry, not that big. Okay. It's not that big a deal. So, okay, so now let us get on to Virgin River season 6. Now, this is a show that it's on Netflix, and especially bearing in mind that Netflix have been canceling a whole bunch of things recently. They've been canceling. I'm like, how on earth is this show on season 6? I'm like, A, how is it on season 6? B, why does it keep popping up in my timeline? And why does Netflix keep trying to get me to watch it? So tell us about this, because it seems. Okay, I'll keep my prejudices. I'll shut up at the moment and just Shaun, tell us about this.
Yeah, it's season 6 and it's been renewed for seasons 7 and 8.
What is going on?
But it is based on a series of books. Apparently, I haven't read any of them.
You see, that was going to be my first thing. It feels like it's based on the books.
Yeah, it's based on a series of books. So I'll give you a quick update as to where we get to in season 6. Basically, the main character is Mal. You see her in the screenshot. Those of you who are watching and those of you who are listening, she's a very attractive woman in her 30s, who in the first season.
I'm like, she's an attractive woman in the 30s. She's the lead of a Netflix show. I'm surprised she's an attractive woman.
She was in Walking Dead, so you might recognize her as the one that was blonde in Walking Dead, and
doesn't narrow it down.
She had the 2 children and was in Alexandra, and her son was the one who shot Carl and lost his eye, and
all
of them are killed in that when the walkers attacked as a big swarm. She was killed. That one. Yeah. She was there. She was in Walking Dead. So that's where you may recognize. Because I thought, where do I know her from? But anyway, she was the first season. She was widowed, and she lived in the big city. She's a nurse, and to get away from her sort of past and this sort of tragedy, she's moved to a more rural area, Virgin River. She's a nurse practitioner there in a small doctor's surgery, and it's in, I'm trying to think where exactly it is. I think it's like Northern California.
Right.
but it's sort of this rural, but not too rural. So it's like close enough that you can get to the cities, but it's still classes like small town, rural California. And when she moves there, she gets this job as a nurse practitioner. And one of the first people she meets is Jack, the owner of the local bar. Now, he's a retired US Marine who's got his own traumas that he is carrying. And surprise, they form a relationship. And over the course of these 6 seasons, you see their relationship form and then progress through different stages. So they have their tragedies, they have their dramas, as you would in a Netflix series. So that's the core of it. But around them, there are the people who work in the doctor's surgery. You've got he surrounds himself with a lot of his old Marine pals. So the guy who works, his chef, his best friend is the local police chief. One of his other sort of in his squad, but he's a bit of a bad boy. He's there as well. His sister ends up living there. Her sister gets involved. They have all friends. There's a lot. It's a whole network of people, and it does largely involve the entangled sort of love lives between them. Even the doctor and his wife, and it's this sort of tangled relationships and how they unfold against this sort of glorious background, because it's sort of certainly stunning. It's stunningly beautiful mountains and these sort of pine forests and the sort of the natural landscape of sort of Northern California that is sort of quite stunning. So, but at the heart of it, it is this relationship story between Mal and Jack as they go from first meeting, their eyes meet across
through a crowded bar.
And then to what the events of season 6. So the events of season, and the only thing I would say about it is it is excruciatingly slow in that over the 6 series, in actual real time, it's 6 years, but in the story, it's only been about a year, 14, 15 months. So there was one character who was pregnant, and she was no word of a lie, she was pregnant for 4 seasons. And there's a joke in one of the episodes where she says, I feel like I've been pregnant forever. And it's like, yeah, you've been pregnant for 4 years. And you get 1 a year. And she's like, So even though we've been with them for 6 years, actually the storyline is only like a year's worth of story, basically. And so there's a lot going on. There's sort of there's a crime, there's a bit of drama, there's a bit of tension, people get shot.
Okay.
It's complicated. It's a soap opera.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I was gonna ask her, would it be fair to call it a soap opera? And it sounds like that. So okay, I have a couple of questions. Why have you been watching for 6 seasons?
Well, they're quite short. They're only 6 to 8 episodes. Yep. I first watched it during lockdown, and that's where I first discovered it. I think me and my mum watched the first 2 or 3 seasons, and then they had a lockdown season where you could tell everyone is like very distanced, and you only get certain scenes with a couple of people at a time. So it went through lockdown, but I discovered it during lockdown when it was just me and my mum living together.
Yeah.
For those sort of 6 to 8 months in isolation, and we would pick a series and we would watch 2 episodes every night, and we got through things like Anne with an E. We went through When It Calls the Heart. We went through all these things that women of a certain age would resonate with them. But sort of, I could see the 3 of you look really blank. But those are sort of programs that kept people like me going through the lockdown in terms of entertainment.
I am not here to sort of I'm not here to sort of have a go at anybody for the things that keep them going. I am not here to have a go at anybody. No. Yeah, so it's just kind of like, but it's just helpful to know what kind of show it is. Like, did you ever see a show called?
Do you like the characters? Do you like the characters? Do you warm to the cat? You must do, I guess, if you like it.
It's one of those things I put on, and then I'm doing something. I'm sewing, or Holly is very much. There's something going on. I'm knitting. I'm sewing. I'm doing jigsaws. There's always something going on. I don't give it my entire attention, because after a while you go, goodness sake.
Especially Will you just stop being stupid?
Oh yeah, there's one lady who is she started off with like a periphery character, but the more she's in it, and honestly, I could just bite her. She's just not in a good way. I could just go, oh, you just, oh. I say to my mum when she's really frustrating me, I say, oh, I could just bite you. And she's someone who just really, I find really annoying. So, there are those characters in it.
Okay.
But the core, sometimes they're just too good to be true, or they just make you want to spit. But on the whole, they're genuinely sort of, largely likable.
So how many stars would you give this?
I'd give it 3. I mean, because it took me about 2 months to get through all of season 6, because I watched a couple and it'd be like, oh, it's a little bit, I'll probably end up with diabetes if I watched it every night. But not too bad. It's entertaining. It does what it's supposed to do. It's escapism. It's entertainment. Everyone is glamorous. Everyone is, gorgeous in their own way. I mean, even the older women or the older men, they're handsome. They're beautiful. They're well turned out. Everything is just tip top. So if you like that sort of fantasy escapism, if I went to Northern California and said I'm going to get a job here, that is not the world I would walk into.
Look at that, there's this hunky barman who looks like it's just like his name is Sawyer,
and every other man was an ex-Marine, and he's still he's a fireman, and he's a it's just like it's just Alaska men all over again.
I was about to ask whether you ever saw a TV show called Men in Trees.
No, but I probably would.
Yeah. So it's a show called Men in Trees, and it starred Anne Hecht. This was in 2006, and it seems like for me it's the progenitor of all these shows of city woman moves to small rural community and finds the secret to life kind of shows, which tends to be a lot of hunky men, which seems to be the case. And there's a bit of me that's actually quite happy that these kind of shows exist and that they work and then they're finding an audience. And there's a bit of me that just cannot be bothered.
That's fine. But this would probably not be made anywhere else in the world, because I don't think we would get away with it. I think I don't think we're capable of making this sort of show in Britain, because we would not be able to resist doing it for laughs. We would not be able to take it seriously. But they play it completely straight, and there's humour in it, but they actually take what they do really seriously. It's like when Gwen Calls the Heart, I had to give up on that because it was just too much, even for me.
Sharon,
no, it's definitely entertaining. It's a 3. I mean, if you want that fantasy escapism, this heightened reality that bears no resemblance to reality at all, then love it, do it, enjoy it.
Okay, you just reminded me of something that could very possibly be like a British take on a very similar thing. There's a show on Channel 4 called The Change, about a woman who sort of leaves her family and everything like that to go to a rural thing, but it's very different. It's very British. That way, as to what actually happens with that. All right, and the final thing I just wanted to ask about this is, how does this differ from all those Hallmark Christmas movies where a woman leaves a city, goes to a small town, and finds a mini secret to life, which is usually a hunky man?
Oh, it's just spread over 8 seasons.
It's a Hallmark movie spread over 8 seasons, and I think on that note, that is the poster quote from Sharon Boland about Virgin River. It's a Hallmark movie spread over 6 seasons, or 8 seasons now, as we're going to have. All right, cool. So that is it for the films or the things we're talking about this week. Who do you think has won this week? Virgin? Oh no, not Virgin. Cinema or Netflix?
Cinema. Yeah.
Yes, I think this week it's been a cinema thing by a whole star, because Ice Cube couldn't save War of the Worlds and that name was I think Timur Bekmambetov.
That's it.
Yeah,
I'll take your word for it. But that's how I would pronounce it. But we've had that, and it's all right, cool. So until next week, when we will watch something, I actually really don't know what's on next week.
I think the what's it called? Not Heroes, or what's the one called? There's one coming out with all the children.
Weapons
coming out
Weapons.
with the little children.
Yeah. I don't know where the hell I got Heroes from.
And then Life of Chuck, I think, is coming out sort of soon.
Okay, cool. Life of Chuck with Tom Hiddleston.
Ooh, Life of Chuck.
Directed by Mike Flanagan.
I think that's in 2 weeks. Maybe it's in August, so it's it's imminent.
At some point soon. At some point soon. But until that time, we will go watch that. And okay, I'm gonna say this now. It's Timur Bekmambetov. Bekmambetov. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So it's Until that time, it's a goodbye from me.
It's a goodbye from me.
Right.
And goodbye for me.
Happy Joe, we need to get you back on at some point.
We do, yeah. It'd be nice to see one of his reviews, wouldn't it?
One of the things when you've actually seen something, it would be great to have you back on. All right, cool. That's it, guys. We're out.